Hey, welcome once again, guys, to the Digital Literacy series. So today, we're talking about preparing your debate and presentation. You should have a pencil and paper to take some notes down. The objectives for the presentation today is to review what you need for the debate and to help you find some suitable, high-quality resources. So here's what you need. You need to cite primary sources. So we're going to give you some links to some primary sources about this topic. You also need to refer to some secondary sources. You're going to need to include some text, some images, animations, hyperlinks, audio or video in your presentation. That's up to you ultimately. And you're going to find those at some of the sites that we give you. And last, and very important, you're going to have to make citations. In other words, you're going to have to reference where you're getting your material from. So the first place to look at primary sources is the United Nations website. They've got some great information about the Paris Accord, what came before it, and that's going to be a key place for you to get some information. The other source of primary material is the White House. So here, for example, is some feedback that they received from various media in favor of President Trump's decision. And of course, here is the statement by President Trump on the Paris Accord when he withdrew from it. These are all available on the White House website. For some science, this is a wonderful document that explains the essential principles of understanding climate. I think it's important to get a background in this. It won't take you long to read, but we'll give you some important background information. And then here's another great website that talks about climate change and has a variety of topics. If you want to do some more research, here's a very nice website called Clean Climate Literacy and Energy Awareness Network. And here again, lots of great information here. Just remember when you're clicking through to pay attention to where you're getting your information. And last, here's another wonderful website by NASA. This is a NASA website, and this is all about climate change, global warming. Interesting piece here, the difference between global warming and climate change. So there's some resources, and there's a link at the end of the presentation which will give you all of these URLs. In terms of the presentation tool, it's really up to you. You can use PowerPoint. You can use Google Slides. You can use Prezi. Really, you can use any presentation tool you want. The tool doesn't matter. I'm going to suggest that you use Google Slides for a couple of reasons. One, it's easy to work on Google Slides as a group. You can all have it open. You can all be working on it at the same time. Second, you can access Google Slides from anywhere. As long as you have a computer and can get online, you can log into your Google account and you can access the presentation that you're working on. You may remember that Google Slides automatically saves your work. So you don't have to remember to save, and let's say something happens while you're working, it doesn't matter. It will save the work. You can always reopen it again. The other thing is, when you do give the presentation, you don't need to have your own computer. Any computer, as long as it's connected to the internet, you can log into your Google account and access your presentation. So a couple points to keep in mind as you're working on this. Talking about citations again, keep track of where you're getting your information. This is absolutely essential. You need to be able to cite where you got the information. You know that when you're online, you're clicking on links, you're writing stuff down, you're getting information. Sometimes you're moving far away from where you started. It's really important to copy that URL and keep track of where you're getting your information. And when you're giving your presentation, you should have that list of citations. You should be prepared to show where you got your information. That's really important. By the same token, it's really essential that the sources you're using are high quality. Now, all the links that I'm giving you in this presentation are high quality. And as a result of that, it's a pretty good assumption that any link from any one of those pages is also a high quality site. But again, we know that as we're looking around the internet for information, we tend to go further and further away. Make sure that when you're looking at something, when you're pulling information off the internet, that the site you're using is a high quality site. And we've talked about how to do that. When you're creating your presentation, keep the amount of text on your slides to a minimum. You want images that will draw people in, but you don't want people reading your slide. You want them to listen to you presenting. A little text is okay, bullet points are great, but don't have long paragraphs that you read. Lastly, you want to have speaker notes for each slide, okay? Whether they're actually built into the presentation, PowerPoint and Google Slides have an area below the presentation area where you can type in your speaker notes, or you have them on a piece of paper. It's essential to have that tool so that you can refer to it when you're doing your presentation. That's the end of the presentation. Remember that if you do have any questions, you are free to ask me or your teacher. If you copy down the URL below here and type it in, you will find a document online with all of the links that I've referenced in this presentation. Thanks.